This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Berryfield. I'm joined in a minute by my good buddy, Mike Regalado.
Mike Regalado.
And we're talking about the season football finale and the number one women's basketball team and the men's basketball team, I guess. And I guess some other stuff too. But it's What's Bruin Show on the What's Bruin Show network. What's Bruin Show at gmail.com, What's Bruin.substack.com, patreon.com/What's Bruin Show. If you want to help us out with a couple bucks.
$2.
You can search show on YouTube. Just search What's Bruin Show. Look for the UCLA stuff. And you can call the hotline, 805-399-4WBS, second reign of Troy. We got a nice call from Desmond this week. Called a little bit too late for the postgame, but here's his thoughts on the end of the football season.
Hey guys, this is Des calling from Westwood. Getting some overtime today. I just want to say, given what happened with Chip leaving and Deshaun getting a job after National Signing Day, getting his team together before, I guess I would say a month or so before spring ball, and what could have been an 8-4 record or, like I said, a 10-2 record, he did pretty good. He did pretty well for his first season as a head coach. And I think a lot of people are giving him and Jarman and a lot of the UCLA brass a hard time because we want to see UCLA do well. That being said, it is what it is at this point. Yeah, we should have beaten everyone after Penn State. We should have really beaten or either had a really close game with Penn State and LSU, but that didn't happen. So now it's on to the off season, and the recruiting class looks, for the most part, great. I think we have about 18 kids coming to the school, and then you hit the transfer portal for a few more, and hopefully that few more would be basically along the offensive line and the defensive line. But I also have a feeling that even though Chip didn't do a whole hell of a lot of recruiting, he recruited kids that could actually get in there and start. Now, I think the defense Also, penalties. The penalties were atrocious all season long, but it seemed like for some odd reason, the other team did not commit as many penalties as we have, and it's almost impossible for something like that to happen. Like, I find it amazingly strange that the offense on the other side didn't have as many false starts or pass interference or hands to the face or face masks as much as we did. But I guess we, probably didn't get the home cooking either home or away up until yesterday. Looking to next season, I think we're going to actually go bowling with this new crew of defensive players. I think we're a 6-6 team. Hopefully I'm wrong and it goes to the 10-2. But I think we're a 6-6 team coming next year with J. Mart taking over, which I think he will. Maybe a couple pieces on the offensive line. We don't need receivers. Look like we found a new running back, plus one is coming back unless he decides to bolt. And but to say, lastly, we're definitely going to need a lot of help on the defense, but once again, I think we already have that help. It just never seen the light of day, and it will see it come this season. I think we'll probably pick up at least 4 people on the defense side, 2 maybe in the backfield, a linebacker, and maybe a defensive lineman. But anyway, with that being said, love you guys. Go Bruins.
Thank you, Des, once again for calling. And, of course, that is the hotline, 805-399-4WBS, second reign of Troy. And great call, Des. So you characterize UCLA as, quote, pretty good, unquote, as far as the way the year went. And I don't know. I would say that they were absolutely kind of at par when it's all said and done. And the reasoning I would say that is, in hindsight, looking at the schedule, it looked like they had some games that they were never going to win, and those are the ones that they lost all of them. Indiana, LSU, Oregon, Penn State. I think those were the ones that, if they win any of those games, in hindsight, it's a huge, huge upset. And then they won the games that they absolutely should have won, albeit not very convincingly, but they beat Hawaii and they beat Fresno State. So 2-0 in the games that were gimmies, 0-4 in the games that were absolute, uphill climbs, probably not going to win them. And then that leaves the other 6 games, which were, in my opinion, 50-50 games. That's the Minnesota, Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, SC. Those were the games in the Big Ten schedule that weren't those big baller opponents. And in those games that I would call coin flips, they went 3-3. 3 up, 3 down, which, like I said, in my opinion, brings you right back to par. If I wanted to qualify this as a pretty good season or a good season, they would have beat Minnesota, or they would have beat SC, or they would have found a way to beat Washington. And, even one of those games would have flipped around, and that would have sent them to a bowl game, and that would have been giving us some warm, fuzzy feelings, right, after the fact. This season, I don't think I can have anything other than just kind of like a meh. Like there are a couple things that went their way in the middle of the season. Otherwise, it was really kind of a slog, and I don't think there's any way to get around that. As far as Deshaun Foster's first year, the most positive thing I can say about him is that these guys played hard in every single one of these games, win or lose, and pretty much all the way through the game. And I think that is that shows these got at least some sort of coaching chops to get these guys motivated. But on the flip side, bringing it to your second point in the penalties, I think that to a large degree, the penalties that they had, and I'm addressing the ones on defense, were mostly penalties of aggression. Lots of personal fouls, lots of unnecessary roughness, lots of those kind of things after the play and stuff. And so I think that's something that maybe Foster can fine-tune as he goes forward, in that he gets these guys ready to play. These guys are excited, this defense. And obviously some of that goes to the defense coordinator, Malloy, as well, is that they're all fired up, and then they play really hard, and the defense did play good this year, but they're committing some kind of rash penalties, and that definitely cost them at points during the season. Now, as far as the rest of the penalties, the ones on the offensive end, and you pointed out yourself, Des, we're talking about false starts, not being able to line up properly. Those are not penalties that are negotiable with the referees. They just call those penalties. And that's a huge reason why the Bruins were the worst, most penalized team in the Big Ten, with over 8 penalties per game. And that speaks not to any sort of coaching chops or not over aggression. False starts and not being able to line up speaks to a horribly, poorly coordinated piece of shit offense, which is what the Bruins had this year. An offense that couldn't even score 18, more than 20 points a game, right? They're 18.4 on CFBstats.com, but that's not even taking into account that they scored a defensive touchdown in the Nebraska game. They get credit for that one, which they shouldn't. So an 18-point per game offense, an overly complicated offense, an offense that leads the country, it leads the Big Ten at least in penalties, that's not going to get it done. And that is the huge, giant, glaring weakness of this team this year. The defense came around to being actually pretty good, to actually really good at moments, and the offense just absolutely DOA, except for a few little whispers of moments in a couple of games. Other than that, it's a 20-point or less offense, and that is not going to get you anywhere in college football, even with a good defense. So. Pretty good, Des. I don't know. Next year bowling, I don't know. I'm going to talk with Mike in a minute about, just right out, the last, 24 hours, a bunch of guys have said that they are bouncing, including one that you mentioned, Justin Martin. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But kind of the jury's out on how this staff chooses to regroup and how they choose to proceed forward. And I think it's terribly important for UCLA athletics, a team that has a chance to be a good team in the Big Ten if they play their cards right. But as of right now, kind of seemingly going towards all sorts of disadvantages. So we'll have to see how it goes. But thanks again for calling, Des. We really appreciate it. And go Bruins.
Didn't you say in your resume that you did 4 years at UCLA?
Yes. Technically, if you consider Bel Air an extension of the campus, which everybody does.
All right, well, it's time to bring on Mike Regalado from Bruin Report Online.
Big applause, Big Mike.
Hi, bro.
Mikey, how you doing tonight?
What's up, yo? I'm all right.
So
I had a week off, but I'm still tired. How is this possible?
You had a week off from actual work, from the real job?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I still, I did have a few days to catch up on stuff, but it's never enough, Jake. It's never enough.
Nope. The holidays can be
enough.
very, very taxing time, my friend. So
very exhausting and cool.
yeah. With that being said, I just played a call from old Des talking about the football. So we'll start the football, then we'll get to the other stuff. But
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, California, hood, hey! Football.
Mikey, in the next week or two, I do want to talk about the season as a whole. But for now, I just want to get your thoughts on UCLA's wonderfully inspiring. Oh my God, how did they do it? Gee whiz, what a great effort win against Fresno State at the Rose Bowl this last Saturday, 20-13. You were there, I weren't. I gave my tickets to good old Leo, and he had a cool little fun tailgate that was actually the title picture of the postgame report that I did. But Mikey, what are your initial thoughts about the Fresno State game?
Jake, first off, I hear the sass in your voice, and I don't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
His team went 5-7, Jake. That's 2 games better than Chip Kelly in his first season. I don't want to hear any sass from any of you or anybody like you.
You can't.
That
Can't possibly be
negative.
That can't possibly be the benchmark we were shooting for. Like, we were all apoplectic.
No,
Chip Kelly went 3-9 in his first season. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to gently push back on that motherfucker and be like, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we were trying to do.
You're like showing like negative vibes now, and it's like, really, it's really taxing IRL.
Yeah.
Oh my God, no cap.
Sorry, Mike. Anyways, what do you think of the game?
My God, that was a boring first half. It was just uninspired. Nothing from both teams too. Although UCLA's defense did prove to be I would say a very good defense overall.
Absolutely.
They had their issues, but that wasn't the problem of this team.
They became a good defense over the course of the year. I think that's a very good way to characterize it.
And, they did their part. They as best as they could, they limited Fresno State in the first half, and then just the same drab, inconsistent. Like, I tweeted out that, like, you know what? I'm just going to get my tweets from last week and copy and paste for this week, because it's the exact same thing, exact same problems. They got better. And I me, of all people, who championed that 3-game win streak, and I was like, yes, it's changing. It did. And I still see some of those improvements, but how are you not able to get more than 20 points in a game, considering the talent you have? And it just seemed like just kind of stale offensive game planning. Luckily, the second half happened, and there was it was more inspired. It kind of felt like the players took over, and they wanted to get the win, which is that was pretty inspiring, especially considering there were 42 seniors or redshirt juniors that are on the program. So there are going to be a lot of guys missing, but we'll get into that shortly. But yeah, no, this absolutely cannot be the benchmark. But I mean, I wouldn't say that this is. There are at least 2 games where UCLA could have swung this and gone 7-5.
No doubt.
At the very least. So, if Lincoln Riley can complain about they're only 5 plays away from being perfect, I can too. But no, really.
No, but that's the reason
they got to find.
That's the reason Lincoln Riley's an asshole. Don't fall into that trap.
Jake, I got to change my approach to life, so I'm going to go the Lincoln Riley route. But no, seriously, no, you cannot. You can't be happy with this. But for those that are taking it like super seriously, it's like, again, first year coach. Maybe you didn't like the hire. But I mean, look what happened when they hired a solid coach. He went and lost to Michigan. Did you see that game? That was awesome too. Chip Kelly's offense at Ohio State could only muster 10 points. Fantastic.
Chip Kelly can.
So you can see. I mean, it's cliche, yes, but you've got to give him a chance. Although, I don't know. Maybe I think the only thing that they do have to do is change the offense. Maybe simplify it. Maybe just make it a little bit more. You got to incorporate the run. I mean,
Mike, they just couldn't run the ball because they aren't good at coaching running the ball, apparently, and they tried to run the ball, and they ran for like 2 yards a carry on the season. That's why they're, breaking news, TJ Harden is transferring probably. He was a perfectly good running back last year, and he totally was, except for in a couple of spots where he, had a couple big games, but that's obviously a reflection of the coaching. But I don't want to get into the full season discussion on this one right now. I want to do that later. But just to wrap it up, this, you said, Mike, they're an office that couldn't score 20 points. The number they actually came up with this year, 17.8. You're going to see they get credited for 18.4, but it's 17.8 because they scored a defensive touchdown and they're getting credit for. An offense that scores 17 points per game, 17.8 points per game, is not going to win very many football games. And I think they're lucky that they have a good defense that allowed them to win 5 football games. So in that respect, but beyond the season takeaways, which we'll do, like I said, in a week or two, do you have any other thoughts on the Fresno State game specifically? How important was... let me ask you a question, Mike. Let me ask you a question. How important was it to you that they actually won the Fresno State game? Like, how bad would the perception have been if they had lost it? And how much does it improve the perception that they won it?
Yeah, it's Fresno State is in their conference, which is not as good as the Big Ten. And they are going bowling. They have 6 wins, but they were a lesser team on many fronts. And I'm not trying to dog them and say they're
certainly
complete crap. But
even though the Bruins lost 4 in a row to them, UCLA should have won this game, right?
Yeah, but those were different teams and rebuildings and first-year coaches who, anyway.
Yeah, there's no universe in which UCLA football should have lost 4 in a row to Fresno State. That's our point. That's your point, right? Because they are, they're a team that should not be able to compete with UCLA regularly. And across the course of 2 decades, they won 4 in a row against the Bruins. Like, how the fuck did that happen? So it's good.
Hey,
it's right or wrong in the universe a little bit.
It's like Samuel Beckett is like writing some of these football games. It's just like the absurdity of it all is just. Yeah, how do you lose to Fresno State? Oh, that's right. They didn't have an offense or a defense in the Chip Kelly first year. But
as you can tell,
aside
Mike,
from that,
as you can tell, Mike, I am absolutely screaming into the abyss right now, and I am waiting for the Bruins to go get a good football team. God damn it! But Mike,
well played.
Thank you.
I like what you did there.
I appreciate that. I know you'd like that. But so they win this game. They get to 5. It's not 6, which would have been bowling. I made the point earlier when we had a call from Des that, they went 0-2, they went 0-4 in the games that they probably weren't going to win. That was the stretch of big opponents early in the year. They went 2-0 in the games they absolutely should win, which is Hawaii and Fresno State. And then the coin flip games were basically a coin flip. They went 3-3 in those games. That's the stretch after Penn State and before Fresno State, all the way up to the SC game. And they went 3 up and 3 down in those. And that's how I can, and to me, in my mind, this season was kind of just par. And that's why I think that it was important that they won the Fresno State game. So you can't characterize this season as an outright failure, especially based on the outside opinions of what people were expecting from them. We all expected more because we knew that there was offensive talent in this team, but it was totally squandered. But as far as like the national perception, they lose this Fresno State game, then all of a sudden it's yet another bad headline. They win the Fresno State game. They get to 5-7. They're just like a, whatever also ran mediocre Big Ten team. But that's better than being the team that lost 3 in a row going down the stretch, right? That's what this avoids. It avoids an 0-3 end. It avoids, like I said, another embarrassing loss where they're like, oh, UCLA's now lost 5 in a row to Fresno State since 2001 or whatever, So
yeah, it also leaves UCLA at the very least. A positive feeling to the end of the season that was treacherous, and especially after losing to USC in the fashion that they lost. So at least just to have a win, just to go, okay, they got the W. That's cool. For fans to celebrate, all 12 of them that were at the Rose Bowl. Yeah. There's still a lot of question marks, and especially after tonight in the transfer portal, but. It was good for them to have a win. Deshaun Foster doesn't necessarily have the monkey off his back completely, but this helps a little.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, for all those things we just said. Okay, so now let's get to, I know you want to get to talking your basketball-y talk and all that stuff, and I just want to get this madness over with. So let's get to the breaking news real quick about football, and then we'll get on with the rest of it.
What's brewing? Breaking news on a weekly basis.
News just in.
So, Mikey, I guess just go down the line. There was a very active
transfer portal
news going on in the last couple of hours. So the Bruins are down a few players, and I think they got a guy. But
Jake.
Yes.
Can I interject really quickly?
What?
Quick sidebar. First off, sources have said that former UCLA defensive backs coach Demetrius Martin is returning to UCLA as a secondary coach. Not exactly sure the actual role.
Yeah.
But he will be back. He was a fantastic recruiter. He was a fantastic DB coach. He blocked half of the fan base towards the end of his tenure with Mora. But that's kind of
why did he? Why were people going after him?
Things weren't great.
Okay.
Things weren't great in general.
Would you
towards the
characterize
end of the Mora era
this as an upgrade or a downgrade, or just to hold him steady, assuming that he takes the place of somebody like Brian Norwood?
If he just improves this secondary, which has been the weakness of the defense this year and throughout the Chip Kelly era, that'll be a huge plus, because you pair that with what still should be, and they're losing guys, but what still should be a pretty solid pass rush. I like it. I do like it.
Yeah, since he left the Bruins in 2017, he went to Arizona for a year or two, went to Colorado for a year or two, went to Oregon for a year or two. These were all as DB's coach, cornerbacks coach. And then last he's coming from Michigan State. He was there this season, it looks like, just as the defensive backs coach. So a lot of stops since he left the Bruins. I don't know. I'm a big solid, palms of the sky shruggy emoji on this one. I don't think any changes to the defensive staff for me in my eyes are positive or negative at this point, considering that I didn't think the defense was a problem this year, and I would extend that even to the secondary as well. Right? I think if there was a deficiency on the secondary this year, it was more so from talent rather than coaching. So that's something. But if he's going to come and recruit the crap out of things, then hey, that's certainly a bonus. So I'm not happy or upset about that. So with that being said, Mike, tell me about the things that we may be slightly upset about.
Oh, man. First off, this came around, the afternoon time. UCLA edge Collins Enchiapong has hit the transfer portal.
We hardly knew ye.
We didn't know ye at all. He transferred to UCLA before the season. Did not play. I was hoping he'd get a shot. He looked like a really good athlete, but we'll never know, at least in blue and gold, because he is apparently out of here. And he's not the only one. With the regular season ending, it's transfer portal time, baby. Players are making decisions right now, trying to figure out what they want to do, obviously weighing the pros and cons. And with that, I think that because of what we just talked about earlier with this offense just kind of just not being there, and it's very not. This is what I wanted to say earlier. If you're averaging 2 yards a carry, that's not going to bring in good running back talent. And we saw that. What did
Mike?
What did the running backs do other than run? They were basically receivers. Running backs don't. They want to have their role. And even if this is a pass heavy, even if this becomes like a Washington State under Mike Leach, totally cool. But
not totally.
Got to have some sort of talent.
Who left?
Yeah,
Mike?
I know. There
were the names that transferred out. You said Enchiapong. You said Martin.
So then it came out that first TJ Harden, our boy Harden, is hitting the transfer portal.
Well, that clears at least 2 buttons on my board. So I guess silver linings.
And Justin Martin,
that's a bummer.
Backup quarterback this year and potential heir
What a shame.
to the throne.
What a shame.
Is in the transfer portal as well.
So, Mike, you're talking about one
Damn
guy, the backup quarterback who presumably, now there's a little bit of buzz on the Slack feed and in the rumblings that Ethan Garber's maybe trying to come back under some grounds for an additional season, right? But presumably, as you said, Justin Martin is the heir apparent to the quarterback position, and he'd been waiting around in the program for a while for that. And then TJ Harden was the team's starting running back, and I'm assuming that this close to the end of the season, this is not an issue of NIL probably at this point, right? These guys entered the portal, but they haven't had destinations, right? They just entered into the portal. Yes, entered into
the transfer portal.
Yeah, they could come back, but it says something
like Keegan Jones.
That you want to, yeah.
But so that's my point is. They're not leaving. They didn't go into the portal because of the money at this point. They went to the portal because
we don't know exactly why.
Well, you're right. We don't know. But like if they already had a destination in mind, then maybe that's what's getting announced, right? As of right now, it seems like if you connect the dots, TJ Harden is leaving the program because he's not happy with his role in the program. Would that be probably, in your mind, the most likely reason at this point? Or could you think of another reason why he would go into the portal?
Well, I mean, just considering who these two, what roles both of these players will have next season in this offense, it kind of seems, like I said, running backs want to run. Justin Martin is a quarterback that can run. He can throw and he can run. And this offense really isn't designed for either of that, at least from what we've seen.
So
that is my assumption. That's my opinion of what happened. Yeah, but other than that,
so you think?
Yeah.
So are you saying that you're thinking that the reason these two entered into the transfer portal is because they don't like the style of offense, as opposed to they don't like the fact that it's an absolute trash bag, horribly coached offense? Because those are two different things, Mike. You know, like if they're going, I want to transfer out of Mike Leach's system.
I will.
That scores 40 points a game.
I think this system doesn't fit their skill set, and they want to go somewhere that does fit their skill set. I don't think
this system fits anybody's skill set, and that's the point. It doesn't take advantage of anything. You took guys that scored lots of points and ran for lots of yards and caught lots of touchdowns and did things at a reasonably good pace, and it turned them all into trash bags. Okay, that's why they're transferring out. Let's not overcomplicate this. That's I'm sorry.
We don't know that the opinions expressed in this podcast.
I'm fucking tweeting Harden's mom tonight, going, is he leaving because he doesn't like the reason for the offense, or is he leaving because it's just a dreadful fucking offense? Oh my God. I'm sorry. You're right, Mike. I'm a little fired up. I said, shouting into the abyss. That's where I feel like. That's where I'm at.
First year, Jake. First year.
Oh,
Give
God.
it time, bro.
Oh, you want more years with this? You want more years with this? You think it's going to get better?
Well, I want to see where they can. I want to see if they can get better.
I want to launch this offense into the sun. Okay, completely different.
Well, you can't do that with your back, Jake.
I know. All right.
Sorry.
Anywho, so TJ Harden's gone. Justin Martin's gone.
Justin Martin
and then
Achiapong. And I'm sure that
they got some wide receiver in the
like
100 yards over in East Tennessee or something too. I think. I don't know. I saw something like that.
Arkansas.
You got some guy in, right? Okay. There we go. All right, great. Gee whiz. I wonder why he's coming to California. Sure. He was in Arkansas before. It's a no-brainer. Anyways, Mike, last thing about this. The one thing you could say about the Chip Kelly era, even though the Chip Kelly era was filled with dread and disappointment, for the most part, especially early, is that they didn't lose the key contributors to the transfer portal like the entire time Chip was here. Now, I'm a little concerned that since it doesn't seem like these two are transfers for the quote unquote for the money, quote unquote, like I am a little worried now that there is a chance there's going to be some sort of giant mass exodus. If two of your quote unquote big guns left, day 3 after the season, I don't know. I mean, I think we should kind of strap in here and see what's going to happen, because that's not a good sign for me. Does that raise any warning flags for you?
Oh, no, totally. But I mean, anything can happen. What if, I don't know, what if, the offense is completely different next year. Not saying why it would be, but and they see that so it can an offense will be installed that better suits our skill set. They could come back. Until they sign with another school, they're just kind of like. I'm sure that it's beyond testing the waters. That this is pretty serious. It's not saying, you know what, I'm going to stay. So
you're absolutely right. They could come back because we had 2 players leave and come back just this past season.
Yeah, exactly.
But
what if NIL comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden that prompts Harden and Martin to stay? But obviously there are different factors for each individual. But yeah, it's weird. But it's also it's eye-opening. If we can see it, definitely the coaching staff can see it, and they clearly know more. They've talked to the players. They know exactly why they're transferring. So that'll tell them about the perception of what their players think. So I don't think that the coaches are definitely going to be blind to it, because they have to pay attention to exactly what's happening and why and who's leaving. So I can't think. How can I put this? I can't imagine the coaches going, "Oh, he's leaving," whatever. We'll still do our thing. They have to figure out how to make this program attractive. They have to figure out how to score more than 20 points, and they have to sell that to these guys. If not, boom, your 2 potential superstars for next season are gone.
Yeah. So yeah, that I am worried about what that might signal. So I guess we'll have to see what's going to happen the next couple weeks as this postseason kind of begins. All right, Mike. So
yeah, exactly.
Let's put a button on. Put the button on football, and let's talk about what you want to talk about, which is the basketball stuff.
Basketball.
Mikey, you want to talk about men's or women's first?
Let's do women's basketball. Actually, both of them are doing really good, but obviously, we have to pump up, as we have done for the last 10 years. The only podcast to do so. Talk about the UCLA women's basketball team.
It's led to so much success. Oh my God, I can't believe how much our listenership spikes when we mention.
Hells yeah, it does.
Go Bruins.
Women's basketball.
Go Bruins!
Hells
oh
yeah,
my
bro.
God.
Go Bruins.
The Bruins are 8-0. Jake, you're okay. You're gonna have to hang yourself
I'm
up at the
excited
door.
about women's basketball too, Mike.
We're
but
talking
I'm like,
women's basketball.
Stop blowing
bro.
smoke at my ass, bro.
8-0, number 1. That's not really smoke up their ass. It's kind of proof.
No,
especially since they beat. Oh yeah, exactly. After getting the number 1 ranking, the Bruins went to Hawaii for the Rainbow Wahine Showdown, which wasn't a bracket. It was a multi-team event. It wasn't a bracket event, more of a round robin. And basically, if whoever came out with the best record was the quote-unquote tournament champion. UCLA started things off last Friday and utterly destroyed UT Martin, 97-37. They repeated pretty much at the same time the UCLA football team was taking on Fresno State.
That was fun.
The women's basketball team was taking on the Fresno State women's basketball team. And they almost a few points off, almost repeated the score from the first game, but they beat Fresno State 97-41.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
Now I did a preview of this that went off into the ether, but previewing Hawaii, Hawaii has been pretty good, but they were very small, and there was not a lot that jumped out. Well, hell, they jumped out at UCLA in the first half as they gave the Bruins hell. UCLA looked horrible in the first half. They couldn't make a shot. And fair enough, both teams were actually shooting air balls. It was an insane amount of air balls that both teams were shooting. It was quite funny, actually. But UCLA just could not hit a shot in the first half. And Hawaii was overly aggressive. Hawaii was doing stuff on defense that UCLA usually does. So it was weird to see the tables kind of turned. But they came out of the half, and I think Hawaii scored.
And by the way, during that half, they never actually trailed. Like Hawaii got within 1. So that's as bad as it got for the ladies team. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That
the
certainly
second half,
should be
Hawaii,
something that should keep things relative in your brain, right? Their worst half so far this season, and they were up by 1. Oh my God, that's how good these guys are.
Yeah. These gals. Oh,
yeah, there you go, Mike.
Hawaii comes out. They get to within 1 point after halftime, and it was like, how is this still happening? And then UCLA goes on a 7-0 run, and from there they just stretch it out. I think they outscored Hawaii. I had the box score here. 24-10 in the third quarter. 14-10 at that point. They were already up by double digits. But it took a while, but they finally took down Hawaii because they just outmatched them. And even though both teams looked tired, 3 games in 3 days, UCLA just had the focus and basically the talent to get the win. Lauren Betts was the tournament MVP. Lauren, Gabriela Jaquez, and Kiki Rice were part of the Wahine Showdown all-tournament team. So congrats to them.
I think
they are off for Wahine. Yes, exactly. They are off for about a week. They don't play again until Sunday, in which they start Pac-12 play at Washington. So, and that's on the same day that I believe UCLA men's is playing at Oregon. So that'll be a big day of basketball.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, this team, aside from that first half, they were just smacking the crap out of, UT Martin and Fresno State. It was funny as hell. I wouldn't necessarily say shooting got worse, but I think they were just still trying to find their vibe. They definitely didn't have a shooting game like they did against South Carolina, but hey, things happen in different games. But this team is just stacked. All of a sudden, Gabriela Jaquez she's second on the team in scoring. I think she was averaging something like 16 points a game in the last 2 games. So she's kind of emerged, which is great because we all know how much of a workhorse she is on defense and offense. You know her nickname, right?
No.
All gas Gabs.
Oh, that's fun.
She has a foot on the pedal all the time.
AGG.
But yeah, Janaea Barker and Tamia Gardner are showing up. Aaron Salo. She's kind of had now she's kind of in a backup role because Kiki's back, but she's still putting up numbers. Yeah, this team is pretty freaking exciting. But yeah,
what is
they will have? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how is Corey Close dealing with the success of this team? And what is she saying about how they are doing?
She doesn't care. She doesn't care about the ranking. She sees that they can get better, and she wants them to be as good as they possibly can each and every game. Coach speak, but she's never been a flashy coach. She never really bragged. She props up her players, and actually she props up opponents, but she also knows when to criticize her team, when to criticize herself and say that they got to get better because of her. So yeah, right now she's not really worried about the rankings, although it is cool, but they got to focus on staying on the winning track because there's no excuse not to get past the Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah, well, and before we even get to the tournament, right? Obviously, we should expect they should have a number 1 seed going into the tournament at this point, right? I think that's on the table for them. But just
God, I hope so because.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, God, I hope so because UCLA again, number 1 in the AP poll. Guess how many Big Ten teams are in the top 25, Jake?
How many, Mike?
9.
That's a lot.
9 women's basketball team, Big Ten basketball teams in the freaking top 25. So yeah, hopefully they get a number 1 seed. Hopefully that conference doesn't eat itself, but they'll definitely be competitive.
Well, right now they're 8-0, and just looking at the schedule coming up, they have 4 more games against unranked opponents. That includes at Washington, then at Long Beach State, then hosting Cal Poly and Creighton. So theoretically, if chalk holds, they should be 12-0 when they host Nebraska on Sunday, December 29th, and then host Michigan on New Year's Day on the 1st. So those are both 2 p.m. afternoon games. If you want to get out and support this team, they will, those hopefully will be well-attended big games, and presumably, I guess the Michigan game's already on Big Ten Network. The Nebraska game doesn't have any sort of TV listed on there, but you would hope it finds its way on TV, being on a Sunday afternoon. But with that being said,
wait, which one? Nebraska?
Nebraska. It didn't. I'm just looking.
Nebraska's
at
on the. Nebraska's on the Big Plus streaming app.
Well, that's super lame. So it's going to be a top 25 matchup. So hopefully it finds its way onto regular TV. So I mean, I'm just saying.
Probably not.
I'm just saying that hopefully those are well attended games. Hopefully those are big games. But those are the next theoretically big opponents for the Bruins, and that's at the end of December.
Yeah.
So, Mikey, I know you want to encourage people to support this team, and that they, the Cal Poly game and the Creighton game are like midweek games. In the evening might be hard to get down there for those, but the Sunday game and the New Year's game, that would be a fun thing to do, to get down to Poly Pavilion and watch the ladies team play a ranked opponent. Those would be ones to kind of mark in your schedule to get out there and go watch them play. And then after that, they go on a stretch of Big Ten opponents that are unranked, and then they go all the way till the end of January, where they face the Terps, Maryland, who's ranked 7th in the country right now, and then Ohio State a couple games later, and then SC a couple games later, and then they have a stretch of like 4 ranked opponents towards the back end of the season: USC, Michigan State, Illinois, Iowa, and then USC in another game after that. So schedule, at least on paper, is very, very backloaded. So, you want to hope that doesn't lead to some sort of letdown at the end of the season, because they certainly are proving that they are good enough to beat anybody right now, right, Mike? But, including, dethroning the number 1 ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. So hopefully they can maintain this energy throughout the season and kind of live up to the expectations they have now set for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And one last thing. You want to know something that grinds my gears, Jake?
What's that, Mike?
Number 1 team in the nation in a 3-game tournament in Hawaii, and we can't see the first 2 freaking games. Thank God for what is his name? Dave Marcus, I believe, the women's basketball announcer. Who there's always audio of the women's basketball games, which I did know, and I didn't say that. But who was it? There was someone that tweeted at us, reminded me of the link, which we didn't say.
It was Leo, the library guy, I think. Or Jack.
Thank you, Leo.
Maybe it was Jack. I think it was Leo.
I don't think it was Jack. I think it was Leo.
Maybe it was Crawford.
But yes,
I think it was Leo.
All the audio's there.
Hi, Leo. Not that.
It was all the listeners. Thank you all.
Not Leo from the Rose Bowl. Leo from the library.
Yeah. But so you could listen to the first 2 games, which I was listening to the first one, and I only got a recap of the Fresno State game because I was at the football Fresno State game. But what the hell, man? And then the third one against Hawaii is only on the ESPN Plus app? This will not stand.
Mike.
Ridiculous. I hate it.
I really feel your pain. But if people were going to watch it, it'd be on the real
you don't
TV.
care.
It'll be on the real TV. I do care. I want it to be popular.
People do watch it,
It's
Jake.
building.
Have you seen the ratings?
It's building. Yeah.
The ratings.
Hey. How many people were at that game on Saturday or whenever that game was against Hawaii, Mike?
That I don't know. At least
2,000 people, Mike. 2,000.
Yeah.
Not that I want to say anything that cuts against this team. They're a wonderful team, and we wish them nothing but success.
I was looking at the photos and some of the rare videos from the first 2 games. There was nobody in the stands at all.
So hey.
Well, also it was UT Martin. No offense to them, and Fresno State.
Mike.
But yeah, that marquee game was Hawaii and UCLA. So
certainly.
If it was like, oh, by the way, what do you think of this, Jake? UCLA, Connecticut, women's basketball game at the Rose Bowl next year. I'm trying to spread this out. I'm trying to spread it out.
I think
because Nebraska set a record for a women's volleyball game because they had it. Was it Nebraska? Yeah, in Memorial Stadium. Let's do it for women's basketball.
I think that you'd have to find a donor to spring for a lot of tarps.
You're not invited, Bro. You're not invited. I'm going to make this happen.
Mike,
it's going to be called the Regalado Annual
go.
Women's Basketball Game. No, I'm just kidding. It's not going to be that. And you're not invited.
Mike,
anyway,
if the Bruins score 194 points against UT Martin and Fresno State, but nobody's there to watch it, did it really happen?
Bill, let me let me ask you something.
I'm very proud of these guys. All right, anyway.
Jake,
the ladies
you weren't there.
are awesome.
That Poly Pavilion was packed. That was the most packed Poly Pavilion has been for a game this season
against South Carolina.
Jake, there were more people at the women's basketball game against South Carolina than there were at UCLA football against Fresno State.
There may have been.
You weren't even
it's
there.
Fine, Mike. Look, I'm encouraging people to go to the Nebraska and the Michigan game. I want people there. I want a full house. I want them to celebrate this number one in the country team. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm just saying that we can't really complain about the lack of attention when like people got to pay attention. Like don't complain about the networks not putting it on. Don't complain about the people not putting it on TV. Complain about the people not watching it.
Jake,
it's the people. It's not the network.
Clearly, you haven't protested as much as I have.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know what we forgot to talk about in the headlines?
What, Mike? We didn't do headlines, Mike. There was no headlines.
We kind of did. Renovations to the Rose Bowl. Before we get into men's basketball, did you hear about the renovations?
No, I don't care. What happens? What are the
You don't care?
Not really. Are they going to Are they going to put a dome on it? Are they going to make the?
No.
Yeah. What are they going to do? Are they going to lower the fucking soda pop prices?
Again, you're not invited. You're no longer
what
invited
are they doing?
to the Rose Bowl.
Tell me.
They're going to have field level box seats.
Oh,
they're going to redesign the tunnel. They're going to have a video screen that's good. Which is proposed to be one of the biggest in the nation. They've already made some of those changes, which is the open, the safe standing seating area. They replaced the PA system, and general maintenance to the stadium itself. But this is kind of a big thing, Jake. That you'd be excited.
Look,
because when Deshaun Foster has the team go 12-0 by 2028.
Bruin Doomsday fans getting humiliated, and you know what? I'm not feeling sorry for them. Nope, not one bit.
Not one bit.
Not one bit.
Better TV screens at the Rose Bowl is great. Improving the sound system is great. Even because they had it juiced to the max the first couple games of the season, it wasn't helpful. They put in the LED lights. That was pretty awesome. That's certainly enhanced the Rose Bowl stadium experience. As far as the fucking club box and all that stuff, you kiss my ass. That's all that's for is so they can charge some people that want to spend more money than I do some more money.
You're damn right.
And see
Deshaun Foster go 12-0
and obstruct some of our seats. Like
$20 beer in their hand.
Lower the price of fucking concessions and
Jake, have you seen
hire staff? Mike, I got one more thing. It grinds my gears. The fact that if you have a game at the Rose Bowl that's attended by more than 20,000 people, the fucking attendants lose their mind. They cannot get people into the Arroyo because they're too big. There's just horrible staff on the outside doing the parking, and then they can't get people into the Rose Bowl because there's horrible staff at the gates. And it's like no other place. They actually put in the little freaking metal detectors that you can just walk right through, and they still make them too slow. I don't understand. I want everybody to be safe. I'm law and order and all that stuff. But oh my God, the most inefficient stadium to get in and out of in the fucking country.
I'm sorry.
In my opinion,
I thought you liked the scenic view. Oh, I'm sorry.
I love.
I thought the granddaddy of them all.
The view. I love the stadium. The staff.
Well, you're gonna have to pay a price for it, Jake. And you know what, Jake? Don't.
You know what, Mike?
Don't complain when you leave 5 minutes before kickoff from your house. Don't leave your house late, Jake. Actually, tailgate there, and you'll get there early. You got the early.
The sad state of affairs is that for UCLA football, you don't have to leave less than 42 minutes from the Valley to get into the Rose Bowl just fine in 99% of the games. Anywho, all right, Mike, what do you have to say about?
I think you're putting yourself. I think you're putting yourself in that position, Jake. Men's basketball. Okay, so we know that it's been a rocky start. They kicked Ryder's butt, had an eye opener against New Mexico, and since then they beat Boston University, Lehigh, Idaho State, Cal State Fullerton, Southern Utah, 5 games in a row. And they start Big Ten play on Tuesday against Washington.
Are any of these wins impressive from any standpoint other than we're happy they got it?
They're all cupcakes. They're all cupcakes. The thing that did stand out, especially in the last game against Southern Utah, is the fact that they look cohesive. Like, even I tweeted out jokingly, haha, shocker, that they need to pick it up. They should be up by 20 on Southern Utah. Yeah, they went more than 20 on Southern Utah. It did take a little bit of time, but it was just it was a fun game to watch.
And they absolutely murdered 3 out of the last 4 opponents. Or, 4.
Yeah, exactly.
4 out of the last 5. I'm sorry.
It's really cool to see, some of the players just like figure out what to do, or and actually for me, I love veterans. Nothing against newbies, transfers, or freshmen, but you don't know them yet. You don't know how they fit into the style. But Dylan Andrews, who he sat out a few games because of an injury, 11 points. 5 of 8 shooting, looked a lot better than he did in previous games. Our boy Laser hasn't really has he started a game? I don't think he started a game yet, but kind of had a few games where he didn't play great. Had a team high 19 off the bench, Jake. This guy was 8 for 12. He was on fire with 5 rebounds. He looked like the Stevanovic that we saw at the end of last season.
Jack Stefanski?
So, exactly. So with these other guys trying to figure out their roles with the team and trying to figure out what Mick Cronin wants for them, it's really good to see that these 2 guys who have been in the system for at least a year are taking over and understand what is needed. One thing that's kind of like been a little like, Tyler Bilodeau he looked really good early on, and he still looks pretty good, but he hasn't really played to that level in the last few games.
Bummer.
He was 2 of 10 in the last game, so ouch. But overall, the fact that UCLA just was swarming defensively, like everybody was just attacking the ball. It was really fun to see,
Mike.
And there's this one stat: turnovers. UCLA forced 30 turnovers. I think that's like the first time in like 12 years.
That's good.
It was just really good to see. It was Cronin defensive basketball. So at least they have that going for them, and they're definitely going to have that in order as they play Washington on Tuesday when this podcast will probably be published. So that will be going on at the Poly Pavilion.
Heavy favorites against the Dogs tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm. They're not
13.
Yeah, Washington not great. Yeah.
But that'll be the opener of Big Ten play. But then they turn around and have to go up to Eugene to play Oregon in about 5
That's
more
a
days.
toughie.
And they are not favored to win that game. Oregon is favored in that game at this point. There's no line yet, but the win predictor has them as like a 40% dog, 40% chance of victory in that game. And then after that is the showdown with the stupid Wildcats of Arizona. The spastic Arizona State team. No. It's the stupid
but Jake, have you seen Arizona's record?
I don't care. Mike, I want to ask you a question about the season right now. Right now they are 5-1 or whatever, so 6-1. And
you were on fire. Yeah, I don't care. Go. I'm sorry. Go. That is awesome.
They're 6-1, and they are unranked. And when you look at the rankings, they're getting, they're one of the teams that are getting a very few votes in the polls right now. And I think that's probably because they got smoked by, New Mexico, and then they beat a bunch of patsies, right? Do you think if they are able to take down Washington and Oregon and maybe even Arizona, right, hosting Arizona at Pauley, is that going to get them a little bit of respect and maybe get a number next to their name?
Oh, hell yeah. Especially, yes, it definitely should, especially against conference opponents. Washington, not great. Oregon is very competitive. So if you win on the road there, that is huge for their resume. The Arizona game, if they win, it depends on how they win or lose, because Arizona is not good at all this year. They are 3-4, and they are not happy in Tucson. Oh, well.
What a shame.
But that would still be a huge win.
What a shame.
Hold on for that.
Well, I'm sorry.
That would still be a huge win because it's UCLA and Arizona. They're just going to go for blood.
But for the record, a game that I never wanted to see played again. I could have completely
you're like
rid
one
of
of three
stupid
people.
rivalry.
You're one of three people, Jake.
It brings the worst out of everybody. It lowers us. Anyways.
It lowers.
It absolutely does. Think of all the bad stories that come from us in Tucson, us playing a game against those guys, and now we have every reason never to do it again. You know?
Well, because it's
kind of like how I feel about Fresno
It's-
State. There's no winning. There's no winning in that. Anyways, I'm sorry.
Well, there was last Saturday. Ugh. But it is going to be a tough stretch because after that, you have Prairie View A&M, and then in New York against North Carolina, and then at the Intuit Dome against Gonzaga.
Yeah. So I mean, a big stretch, but I'm wondering if the Bruins can get themselves into the rankings by the time they get to that North Carolina game, and then we'll see how they do against North Carolina and Gonzaga, right? I mean, and those
if they
games
win through Arizona, I would say yeah.
Well, so let's say they get ranked, and then you probably could take a loss to like Gonzaga if you end up beating, those other teams on the schedule. How important do you think it is for the Bruins to kind of get into the rankings before they get deep into the Big Ten season? I kind of feel like the Bruins kind of need that for kind of cachet going into the. I don't know how much that really matters, but cachet into hopefully getting seeded well in the tournament, and all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I right now I don't think the ranking matters. I think they have to prove that they're a top 25 team, and right now not so much. They feasted on cupcakes, but if they can continue to do this with quality talent, oh, definitely. But any coach is going to say, "Oh, it doesn't matter what we're ranked, as long as we can fight against this team or that team, whatever." But yeah, even UCLA is going to have a tough time in the Big Ten. Who's in there right now? Oregon, Illinois, Purdue. Purdue's freaking. How are they still that good? So not as much as like women's basketball, but they're good. From what I've learned since UCLA joined the Big Ten is that God, they hate each other more than the Pac-12 teams hate each other. It's insane. So there's going to be a lot of blood in the Big Ten, which I'm all for, and I would love to see who UCLA's first rival is outside of the West Coast teams, because that would be fun to do. But yeah, Cronin just has to make sure that these guys are. The defense seems like it's there. They also need to score too, because Jake, whatever offense scores more points.
So I think it's whatever offense manages to score more points.
Wise words.
They're going to win. They're going to win. I'm telling you. So no, I think it seems like the offense is almost there. They just don't have one guy to kind of like lead the charge. But defensively, they look really good.
Nice. Okay. Well, look. If you ask me about the women's team, we have something to like plant our flag with, and that is beating up South Carolina, and claiming the number one ranking, right? That's something that already proof of concept there. This is Corey Close's, biggest year, most accomplishment. It's pretty lit right now with the women's team, and that's pretty awesome. With the men's team, we're it's
pretty Sigma.
We have all this promise. Yes. We have all this promise, but they still haven't really proven anything up to this point. So I'm kind of looking at the season coming forward and where are the moments where they actually can show us that they are going to be a pretty decent team? Because, obviously this is a team that was not that great last year. We were wondering how they would turn out, and this is a much different team this year. And so we're still kind of waiting to see, proof of concept last year kind of failed with Cronin, as much as we love Mick Cronin. Proof of concept this year still out there, and we're waiting for it to get kind of proven or disproven, right? Is that a fair way to characterize it, Mike?
No, totally.
Yeah.
Especially since you have so much turnover. The guys just have
absolutely.
to understand how Cronin wants them to play basketball. And once they get it, this will be a hell of a team. But I think right now the weakness is offense. They're consistent from time to time, but if the defense continues to produce what they're producing, they're going to give a lot of teams a hard time.
Yeah, well, and like I said, if you're seeing the weaknesses offense and they're still managing even against these patsies, they're averaging it looks like almost close to 80 points a game, if not right at 80. Like that's not bad for a college basketball team, playing 40 freaking minutes, So obviously they're not going to be able to generate that sort of those turnovers and those amount of points versus tougher opponents. But if you put some patsies out there and you for the most part, murder them all. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just a really quick last stat. UCLA is number 1 in the nation in defensive efficiency,
which is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Can't beat number 1.
But I do got to say, I want to see how they do against tougher opponents, very offensive-minded opponents. If they can shut those guys down, or at least considerably cut back their production, that's going to go far.
Yeah, and you would hope that, for most of our run with Mick Cronin, these teams have gotten better for the most part as the season goes on. So if you're starting here, then you would hope for a nice progression here as opposed to them fading. So that's something that hopefully we can count on. So, all right.
Yeah.
Mikey, that's it as far as I'm concerned. Are you ready for What's Brewing with You?
Hells yeah.
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, what's brewing with you?
I slept in every day of Thanksgiving break, and it still wasn't enough. Jake, I'm still tired. How is this possible? I did get a lot of stuff done, but it was pretty fun to. It seems like the tradition is going to my sister Jennifer's place out in the Whittiers, and it's always really fun. Like I don't. Just because we're all busy and one of the sisters lives in Salt Lake City, but when we all get together, it's like we're all like being jerks to each other, in like grade school and stuff like that. And it's also awesome because my younger sisters, who can be quite catty, are teaching my daughters and son to be aggressive and cheat at Thanksgiving board games and card games and stuff like that. So I appreciate that.
That's nice.
I also ate way too much. It was the first, I've always kind of like been like, I'll eat to where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good. No, dude, I stuffed myself. I had so much pie this weekend. It was embarrassing. And then I had to go, I went to the football game, which was kind of, that was bittersweet. It is always fun to do the job that I do. And to do it, once again, in the Rose Bowl of all places, pretty freaking nuts. But yeah, and then Sunday, what happened? There was like a birthday party or something. It was a whole thing, but pretty exhausting Thanksgiving week that was supposed to be relaxing, but it was quite nice, especially hanging out with the kids. Jake, what's brewing with you?
So it's Thanksgiving weekend, so I guess that's what we'll talk about. I mentioned this on the postgame show, but the Merrifields certainly knocked it out of the park this year with Thanksgiving. I'm very proud of the family. For the second year in a row, we were catering quite an event. It's the first time in the time I've been with my wife, 25 years this last year of marriage, that we hosted more than 10 to 12 people. We were up over the 20s. We had 22 or 23 this time, I think, and last year it was the same. So 2 years in a row we hosted over 20 people, and last year, adjusting to the more people, we had a couple of snafus. We had an incident with the oven where the turkey took a little too long to cook through nobody's fault other than just fate. But that happened. We had to adjust to that. And then we had a little problem with that, keeping the other food warm. And so we wanted to be better this year. And oh my goodness, we really did knock it out of the park. And by we, I mean the rest of the family, really, because all I did was cook some corn and clean up afterwards, and serve some drinks. But my wife, she made the turkey and the mashed potatoes and the stuffing and all that stuff. And Molly made a great macaroni and cheese with Malcolm. Megan made like 4 or 5 pies, but everything that we served was homemade, and it came out wonderful, and it came out warm, and we had a nice big meal for a whole bunch of people, and I can't give enough compliments to how the family came through with that. So very nice Thanksgiving. And then and then after that, just a long weekend in which I got rear-ended, which sucks again.
What?
So my car's in the shop again after some jackass rear-ended me on the freeway. And I've suffered a couple flesh wounds just from things that happened over the weekend. But I'm surviving, and I'm here, and I'm all right. And I'm glad that I'm glad you got some sleep, Mike. So. All right, so good Thanksgiving had by all, and I guess that'll wrap it up for this show, Mike. I'm not sure when we'll be doing shows. Like, we might do something for National Signing Day if it's relevant in a couple of days. Who knows? It might just be me or it might just be you. And then as far as, like, through the end of December, we'll probably put out, my over-under is like 2 on numbers of shows we'll do through December. Just give us a little bit of a break after.
Mine is over 7.
That's great. So, Mike, you do your 7, and I'll do my 2, and we'll call it a day. But whatever it is, just watch your feed. It might not be consistently on Tuesday for the rest of the month. And then, after the new year, we'll probably get back into the rhythm again. But with that being said, I'm sure, we'll come back at least a couple of times before the end of the year. But, with that being said, thanks for listening to the show. If you have anything to say, call the hotline 805-399-4WBS.
4WBS.
Suck it in Troy. And, like I said, you have thoughts on the end of the football season, or you have thoughts on the women's basketball team, or you have thoughts on the men's basketball team. All those things are all valid, and please call in. And hey, if you happen to be, if you get arrested during the month of December, call Jacob Kachatrin. He'll help you out. He's a fine lawyer, one of my dear friends. And also, if you happen to be in the Valley on December 21st, I'm going to send you to a place to have the best dumplings you will ever have. And where that is going to be, where'd it go? Oh, yeah.
You've never told me about this.
1221 at Lawless Brewing. Go see my friend Jody Lynn, the maker of dumplings, and they're the greatest dumplings in the history of dumplings. And Mike, this
is at a brewery?
It's literally been in the show notes for a year and a half. So thank you very much. Okay. But no, she makes the dumplings on the side. She's a wonderful lawyer, but she does these pop-up events at different places all over, really at this point, all over the world. She's been to other countries doing this stuff too. But they're worth it. So if you happen to be in the Valley.
But this one's going to be at a brewery.
On the 21st, Lawless Brewing. I think it's in North Hollywood. And it's worth it. So go see Jody. Yeah. So go see Jody and tell her that Jake sent you. So anywho, guys, with that being said, thank you very much for listening. Go ladies basketball. Go men's basketball too, I guess. And the football. Shrug emoji.
Go get them recruits.
Yeah, that too. So,
NIL, baby.
Until next time, Mike, what do we say?
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's got to be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, bro, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.